Hi, this is Stephanie Miller from The Stephanie Miller Show. Please enjoy this exclusive clip from my show on Political Voices Network.
Good morning, Stephanie Miller. It is a pleasure to be with you.
You too. So, Jill, it's just short of $11 billion is this judgment. Can I just say, my girlfriend said what I hear people say all the time. They're like, oh, he'll never pay it. All these judgments, this is what kills me, is what's happened to our justice system, that people just seem to feel like there's two systems of judgment, and he'll just appeal and appeal and appeal forever, and he'll never pay it. Please tell us that's not true. That there is
Sort of not true here.
Yeah.
I'm happy to report that in New York, you have to post either a bond or the actual amount of the judgment
right.
before you can appeal. And so he posted $5 million in cash to appeal the first defamation judgment against him on behalf of E. Jean Carroll. He's now facing a minimum of $88 million deposit that he will have to make either in his own cash or by paying someone for a bond that will accrue interest every minute that it's there. So the money is safely put away. Otherwise, he can't even appeal. That's the end of it. And then actions can be taken to get the money immediately. Liens can be placed on his properties. He can be forced to sell them. So I think in this case, he might have to. Will he declare bankruptcy? Imagine him having to admit to his followers that he's bankrupt.
Yeah.
Now, he will say, it's because I didn't do anything wrong. I was protecting you. And unfortunately, those people, I was going to say something worse, those people believe him.
Well, I mean, this to your point, this is the headline this morning. GoFundMe to help pay Trump's $350 million legal bill is raking in big bucks. I mean, First of all, is that legal, I guess? I mean, it really is still incredible, isn't it? That's what I think people mean, is they feel like he personally will never pay anything. He'll get these rubes,
That is possible. And that is actually better than, for example, Russia paying for it or Elon Musk. I mean, there are other rich people. There was in the Trump University, which is one of the earlier fraud cases, along with the Trump Foundation, the damages are reputedly paid by a billionaire from Las Vegas who owned a hotel. And that means that Donald Trump didn't even pay the damages in that case. So it's just, you're right, he's never been held accountable, but now he's facing criminal charges, and no one but him can serve that sentence.
Yeah. Yep. There you go. Well, let's talk about the appeal. So he will appeal, obviously, the $355 million judgment in the New York fraud trial by challenging Judge Engoron's definition of the crime. His attorney, Chris Keiss, said the case raises serious legal and constitutional questions regarding fraud claims and findings without any actual fraud. Tish James, of course, is going to say that they have the power to prosecute. Obviously, Judge Engoron ruled in the summary judgment order that under 6312, the Attorney General does not have to show any of these elements. A showing of falsity is enough. Can you break down the legalese for us in all that?
The bottom line is they don't have a good ground for appeal. That New York law says that if you falsify documents, then you're guilty of fraud. And the proof of his falsification was quite obvious. And the people he put on the stand to say, no, he had great financial statements and they were totally accurate, were considered incredible. They weren't credible witnesses, according to Judge Engoron. And his opinion of credibility will be the guiding principle at any appeal. Appeals look at legal definitions. They will not look at factual or credibility conclusions. Those are the trier of fact, which in this case is the judge. There was no jury. And so when he says these people were not credible and the other people who testified to the opposite fact were,
right,
they have to accept those facts. They can challenge whether the law somehow says something different. It's the same thing that happened in Colorado, where the Colorado court made a factual finding, but then made a legal finding, which got overturned by the Supreme Court of Colorado.
Yeah. So obviously, this ruling, Don Jr. and Eric Trump each have to pay $4 million in damages. Alan Weisselberg, $1 million. Engoron also barred Trump from serving as a corporate officer or director of a company in the state of New York for 3 years. I'm first of all was curious why it's not forever. This level of fraud, which the judge described as breathtaking, right?
Yeah,
and secondly,
right.
He didn't go as far as the corporate death penalty that everybody is calling it. It does strike me that he's not allowed to run a company in New York, but it's still possible we might let him run the country. But go ahead, your take on just.
So let's focus on what you just said, because that's really what we should worry about. Is that he could be running this country, and he has said he would run the country just like he runs his business.
Hey.
Do we want someone guilty of fraud, or at least at this point, there's no appellate overturning. He has been adjudged to be a fraudster. Do we want that person running the country the way he ran his corporations? And I would say, no, we really don't. Why it wasn't the more severe corporate death penalty, why it wasn't for at least 5 or 10 years, is probably to make it a little more palatable on appeal and to the public. And so I don't think that there was any reason why he couldn't. He also didn't award the total amount that the Attorney General was requesting. He returned slightly less. And by the way, when we say $350 million, we're really talking closer to $450 million, because as part of the damages, he has to pay interest from time, and that's almost $100 million. So
just as long as we've been talking. I just love the fact that it's been
it keeps going up every minute. And exactly. So, and it will keep accruing even when he deposits the $450 million. It's going to keep on getting bigger. So at some point, it's going to be a more obscene amount than his obscene conduct deserved.
Oh, that makes me sad. Okay. Letitia James also, according to one analysis here, has been playing the long game, anticipating Trump would try to pack up his operation and move it to Florida, where he and his children now live. With the support of Judge Engoron, though, James asked for a monitor to oversee the company and its assets that have kept Trump from moving money around to avoid paying whatever Engoron was going to slam him with. How do you think he's going to take to his babysitter and needing to ask permission to do anything with his money?
Well, I know Barbara Jones, who is the monitor.
Right.
She was the chair of a committee that I served on looking at sexual assault in the military. And so we met every month. I got to, see her quite regularly. And she's up to the job. She will do a very good job. And he also is going to have a compliance officer forced upon him. So it's going to be harder for them to do it. He's not going to like it, but I don't think there's anything he can do about it. And so far, they've sort of cooperated with former Judge Jones, and I don't think that they will stop. So I think it's going to be okay. I think that he and his family are pretty much done in New York. They can't serve on any foundation board because of the fraud involved in their foundation, which they were using charitable dollars for themselves. I think there is a large amount of accountability here, and I'm wondering, people have always said, if he's convicted of a crime, it might change my vote.
Yeah.
This is almost like being convicted of a crime. It's so dramatic. I'm just wondering if maybe this will penetrate, maybe not the deepest MAGA crowd, but the outer perimeter, to use his own language in terms of why he's immune, is the outer perimeter of his job.
Yeah.
Maybe this will have an effect. What do you think?
Well, I do. And also, I want to get your take on this tweet. Can anyone explain how someone with debts as massive as Trump's, following both the civil fraud and E. Jean Carroll trials, could ever be eligible for security clearance again were he elected to high office, asking for a nation?
Because unfortunately in our country, the president doesn't go through a security clearance. He is automatically gets a security clearance. Everyone else has to go through it, but the president does not. So therefore, he is. Period.
Insane. So, everybody keeps also pointing out, obviously, next trial up is, everybody calls it the hush money case, but it really isn't. It's an election interference case as well, isn't it? The whole Alvin Bragg trial that'll be first up, right?
It is. As I've been saying on Twitter for a long time, I have a hashtag, say this, not that.
Yes.
And one of the things is call it what it is. Call it an election interference case, not a hush money case, because it was intended to stop voters from knowing the facts before the election, the original 2016 election. And obviously it worked. Now that it's public, nobody cares. Nobody cares anymore because his followers are deeply in love with him and don't care what horrible things he does.
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about, you tweeted, too bad the standard for disqualification got lost. The defendants wasted 2 days without producing any evidence to show that Fani Willis should be disqualified. Most every woman I've talked to, Jill, was just as enraged as I was by watching this interrogation of Fani Willis's personal life and finances and yada, yada. And, I think I saw Joyce Vance and, more of your legal lady friends saying the same thing, that they just did not meet the legal standard, right?
They absolutely didn't. Our episode of hashtag Sisters-in-Law this week has one very long segment about Fani Willis and how awful it was. And the point of my tweet was really, let's focus on what was supposed to be put into evidence. Something that showed a conflict of interest. And nothing was shown that showed a conflict of interest. Yes, she had an affair. Was that great judgment? Probably not, especially with someone who worked for her. But does that in any way affect the evidence or the guilt of the people? Does it show a conflict in her judgment of going forward with the case? Absolutely not. There was not a single shred of evidence that she had any financial benefit from this. And that, I loved your statement, a man is not a plan. Yeah. And I'm an independent woman. I can pay my own expenses, and I do. Yeah. And her father was so great a witness about, and I taught her to pay in cash because I, as a black man, was denied the use of my American Express card. And then I was denied my Visa card and then my traveler's checks. And luckily I had cash so I could pay the bill and not be run out of town.
Yeah. Yeah, by the way, Katie Fang tweeted, I was struck by the testimony of John Floyd, father of Fani Willis. Mr. Floyd testified Willis was forced to move out of the brand new home she bought with her own hard-earned money because of death threats she has received. And the other thing, Jill, I guess that I keep pointing out, a lot of us out here in LA keep pointing out, Marsha Clark and Chris Darden were in a relationship during OJ, and I'm sure it's happened in 11 billion other trials across this country. It's just ridiculous.
It may have. Yeah. But in addition, the lawyer who is filing this on behalf of Roman Merchant is married to another lawyer on the case.
Thank you.
So there you go. Was there any conflict between them? No. Yeah. If Fani Willis had been in a relationship with a grand juror,
right,
that would be a problem.
That's different, right?
If she was in a relationship with a witness, or if she was herself a fact witness, but that's not the case. Yeah. She built this case, and by the way, she built the case before she hired Nathan Wade. It was already developed. So, and the case can continue without him. He is the manager, and nobody has said he isn't doing a good job of it. They have said he doesn't have experience in RICO. So what? He's not handling that element. He's handling the overall coordination. Yeah. And so there's really nothing there. There's no there.
Yep. Let me get your take on this because I know you tweeted about it. Here's Nikki Haley.
Governor Haley, if you were elected president, would you pardon Donald Trump if he was convicted of a crime in federal court?
Well, thank you for that question. If you're talking about pardoning Trump, it's not a matter of innocence or guilt at that point, because that means he would have already been found guilty. I believe in the best interest of bringing the country together, I would pardon Donald Trump, because I think it's important for the country to move on. We've got to leave the negativity and the baggage behind. I don't want this country divided any further. I don't think it's in the best interest for America to have an 80-year-old president sitting in jail and having everybody upset about it. I think this would be the time that we would need to move forward and get this out of the way.
Isn't that amazing? Today's Republican Party, just a serious crime is just negativity, Jill.
It is amazing that she used the exact same words as then President Ford did.
Thank you.
He did it in the interest of bringing America together and ending the divisiveness and moving forward. He felt it was more important to accomplish things going forward. And it left unresolved the real guilt of Richard Nixon.
Yep.
Yes, the acceptance of a pardon is an admission of guilt, but that gets lost on most of the American public. But when, first of all, when your father's running mate went to the White House and with the other two leading Republicans and said, you will be convicted on these charges of impeachment if you don't resign. So he said to Goldwater, well, do I have your support? And Goldwater supposedly said, you do not even have mine. And he resigned the next day and left office the day after.
And we have to break, Jill, but I was going to say, you just made the point, though, on Twitter, too, is it's the reason that he lost to Carter, is pardoning Nixon. So, hopefully we do learn from history, but we shall see. Jill, thank you, sisters-in-law, the best. I listen all the time. With his book, MSNBC, everywhere. She's a woman, a myth, a legend in industry. We love you.